think a few people might still trickle in, but thank you guys so much for joining us for our presentation this morning. We are going to be talking about assessing higher order thinking, a beta test. Just an introduction to start off with, I am Ashley Dillard. I'm with Peregrine Global Services. I've been with Peregrine for 4 years now. When I started out in this role, I really spent a lot of time with our current partners to help answer any questions that they have. And then I moved into the solutions advisor role, where I was really able to spend time with our partners and prospective partners to understand their goals and needs and then develop innovative solutions based on those conversations. So I'm excited to join you today and share a little bit more about the critical thinking assessment. I have my friend here, Miss Melody. I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Melody Philhours from Arkansas State University, and I've been a partner in the Peregrine program to beta test this critical thinking assessment this year, and our College of Business has done that. So I'm going to share our experience with you in a little bit.
Thank you so much, Melody. I'm really thankful to have her join us today and just share her perspective on partnering with us on the critical thinking assessment so that you can understand how that might could be implemented within your program based on her experience. So I want to start with a little bit about Peregrine. Some of you may not be familiar with our organization. We started out 20 years ago as a leadership development company. 7 years after that, we started in higher education. Our late founder was an adjunct faculty at an institution. He was on their accreditation committee and said there has to be an easier way to assess the knowledge of students. And so Peregrine Academics was then formed to help assess the retained knowledge of students. So for 13 years now, we have been with higher education institutions. So Lead Boldly has been something that has been very important to us for decades now, developing leaders within organizations as well as within higher education. So we still provide leadership development as well as higher education solutions. So I just wanted to provide that background about our organization for you to have some context. So Peregrine's critical thinking assessment was developed to measure knowledge at various levels of Bloom's. The service development really started as a need to measure knowledge at the doctoral level. So our knowledge-based assessments wasn't really helpful in measuring the learning of that level of knowledge. So we ended up developing a solution that can be used at all academic degree levels. So the critical thinking assessment is currently designed to measure critical thinking at the course level. By introducing this assessment as a course level, you can then add the results to your assessment portfolio as it's not a grade-based exam. So most institutions and programs have outcomes related to critical thinking, and this tool will effectively measure students' ability to think critically. So we partnered with Arkansas State University to beta this process, and so Melody's going to share her experience, but I want to talk just a little bit about how this is utilized. So this assessment uses scenarios to encourage students to take on a role within a company to analyze a real or fictitious business problem. Students must skillfully analyze, assess, and reconstruct the information to provide answers to a combination of multiple choice and short answer questions. The scenarios that we have are administered to students randomly, so no two students will receive the same set of scenarios. The multiple choice and short answer questions complement each other because we want to ensure proficiency through measuring knowledge as well as measuring the ability to think critically. So each question is mapped to a level of Bloom's taxonomy. Schools may choose which level of Bloom's they want to assess based on their academic program level. For example, an associate's level program may only be interested in assessing the bottom 4 levels of Bloom's, while a doctoral-based program may only be interested in measuring the top 4 levels of Bloom's. So after a student completes the assessment, the faculty, school officials will score the short answer questions. So multiple choice questions are automatically scored, and then who you designate on your team to score those short answer questions will then go into the system and score those. And I'll talk a little bit about that process here in just a moment. So the score given after the completion of the short answers, the score given after the completions of the exam is the score on the multiple choice questions. So students are not going to receive a lower score just because the short answer questions have not been scored yet. So once those are scored, they're factored into the final score. So one thing that differentiates Peregrine's critical thinking assessment from others is that the topics are relevant to the students. So when students can see and understand the application, they're more likely to take this seriously and feel more confident going into the exam. So we've mapped our scenario items to the topics that you see here: business communications, business ethics, leadership, business integration and strategic management, and global dimensions of business. And what's really nice about the topics available is that they are often topics that are shared across multiple program types. So this includes business administration, leadership, healthcare management, and public administration. So when we began developing this solution, these align with the business program, but we are moving towards developing this where there's no required prior knowledge, so that you could provide this to students at any academic program and they could assess their knowledge at the critical thinking level. So of course we realize that manual scoring takes time and energy, so we put in the work to make this as effortless as possible for your scoring team. So the assessment uses a 4-point rubric for scoring. The rubric covers 6 sub-criterion of critical thinking to help you pinpoint where learners may need additional support. Scores are provided with a model response to the question, key concepts, and explanation of the sub-criterion to help bring some objectivity to the scoring process. So each of our scenarios, questions, model responses, and key concepts were provided by the same subject matter expert. So these SMEs provided model responses and keywords to give the faculty a foundation for scoring. The interface is very easy to navigate. You can sort and filter responses, which makes scoring efficient. And then based on the information we collected from schools within our Peregrine Partner Program, it takes less than 2 minutes on average to score a short written response on average. So I want to talk just a little bit about the Peregrine Partner Program. So over this last several years, Peregrine has been developing our Peregrine Partner Program. So although all of our services were developed in collaboration with different accrediting agencies and clients, this time we took a systemic approach to our beta testing process. So Peregrine is invested in fostering innovation in education technology so we can help disrupt the future of higher education in a positive manner and ensure that we are supporting the development of our future workforce and needs. So Arkansas State was one of our partner organizations who was a part of this beta test process, and that's why we have Miss Melody here to talk about that today. So she's going to talk a little bit about how they entered the beta process, why this was appealing to them, and what problem they were trying to solve with this solution. So I will welcome Melody to speak now.
Okay, hi. Can everybody hear me? Okay, I don't need the microphone, because if I can't wander around and wave my hands, I probably can't even talk. So, okay. So I know you all have been involved or at some level with assessment over time, and so what we had previously been doing for critical thinking assessment is that we used an embedded case in our strategic management, our capstone course. So those of you who've worked with things like that know that that took a lot of coordination. We had to get all the professors who taught that course, who taught all the sections in that course, get all of them to use the same case, to use the same rubric, and then they would score all of that themselves. So that kind of kept this as a little bit of an insular product. It also kind of kept it as a burden to the strategic management professors, and a little bit of a burden to me too, in trying to coordinate that with them. And then we had at least one who likes to plan a year in advance on his courses, so we had to get these things going really in advance there. So we were kind of always looking for a little bit of a different way. Another little bit of an issue that we had with that system is that our university assessment office has a program called EAC Visual that they can just take the data out of rubrics from various sections, which is very efficient, but the key is that every one of those sections has to use exactly the same rubric. It cannot have one number difference, it cannot have one letter difference, it cannot have anything different. And that's proved to be such a challenge, in spite of the fact that you can just import those into Blackboard, that we only one time in all the years got to use EAC Visual because of that. But, so this, again, another reason that we were sort of looking for something else. We had scheduled critical thinking assessment for the spring of 23, but in the summer of 22, we saw an announcement in the AACSB listserv for Peregrine's, they were seeking partners to develop this critical thinking assessment. One of my colleagues sent this to me and said, this may be something we're interested in for critical thinking. So I reached out to Desiree Moore, who's their Director of Business Development, and I met with her, thought this sounds like something we might want to be involved in. Then I got the strategic management professors together. They met with me, and they agreed to do this because it seemed like it might be something that's a little bit different and maybe a little bit less of a burden on them specifically. Okay? And so then we have our assessment structure such that we have goal assessment teams. And so for each outcome, each of our learning outcome, we have a goal assessment team of 6 or 7 faculty from the various departments in the college. And so then the goal assessment team, our critical thinking goal assessment team, met with Desiree, and everybody agreed that this is something that we should investigate and go forward with. So we moved forward after that with an agreement with Peregrine on how this would work, how we would develop our assessment, how we would customize it, and so we moved forward with that. So what we did, and Ashley, jump in if you'd like to ask a question or something there. But what we did then was that this is customizable in terms of we pick how many scenarios the students will get. We wanted the exam to be an hour long. Okay. And so we chose, at Desiree's recommendation, we chose 3 scenarios. We also thought that since we were going to administer this in all sections of strategic management, this is the capstone course, they are graduating, we would go with the upper 4 levels of Bloom's taxonomy. So we chose that the students would have 3 scenarios, and they would only be tested on the apply, analyze, evaluate, and create elements of Bloom's. And so we had to make decisions, things like whether the test would be open, they called it, where it was, you could move backwards, the students could move backwards and forwards in the test, or whether it would be a forward only test so that they could do one scenario, and then once they moved forward, they could not go back to that scenario. We had to make all of those decisions, which basically came down to I and the strategic management professors worked together to design this. Okay. So once we got the exam designed, then the tech support team at Peregrine worked with our tech support team on campus to, I don't know if this is the right term, install an LTI, meaning they integrated it with our Blackboard system. Some of you are nodding. Okay, so don't ask me what LTI stands for because I don't know, but I know it makes it work within Blackboard, okay? So all the professors then, we put that into their Blackboard shells. Peregrine developed a great how-to material for students so that part was quite seamless. So once we got all of that installed, ready to go, the professors assigned this as an assignment in their class. Some of them took scores from the multiple choice to use as grading for this as an assignment. Some of them offered extra points for them to take it. But out of an enrollment of 104 students in strategic management in the fall, 97 of those students took the exam, did the assessment. And so that was a very high percentage who were motivated to do this. Okay? So then we moved into the scoring. And in the scoring of this exam, as Ashley was talking about there, we had a large number of short answers to score. Okay? And so how we did that was, and this is something that I'm really quite proud of happening for us as a faculty here, is that I simply asked for faculty volunteers to score these short answer questions. And I had 15 faculty members who volunteered to score these. One of the things I didn't share with them was that we had 860 answers to score. I never used that number, and in fact, right now may have been the first time I said that number out loud. But I did not tell them we had 860 to score. But I said, you can score as many as your time allows, and as long as you want to, do this. And so, again, very seamlessly, all I had to do to get them into the scoring platform was to provide Desiree with their email address and their names. And then they're in the scoring platform. They can go in, they can designate how they want to score these responses. A lot of them would say, I want to score all the responses for this particular scenario. There were 40 possible scenarios, I believe. So, that worked out. Some would say, I'm just going to score all the responses to this scenario, that scenario, and so on. And so it was all done within the system there. So we had some real heroes who scored 211 to be exact, but most of the volunteers scored something like 50, 75, 100 of these, and they got done. They got done on time. And so something about this assessment that I think was really a great thing is that, one, we had the strategic management professors design the assessment, design it in terms of selecting the times and the methodology and so on. Then we also had the one faculty member who's not even on the assessment committee who sent me the announcement, said this may be something we want to do. Then we had 15 faculty members who were involved in scoring these responses. So this really made it a faculty-wide, all over the college effort for all of us, and nobody worked too awfully hard on it. Whereas what we were doing previously was very labor intensive for just the strategic management professors. Okay? And it also, they were the ones who cared primarily about the results. But now we've got a lot of buy-in from a lot of people within the college. And so, so it's been very good in that respect. Other things that we looked at for this is along the way, we worked with Desiree and we worked with Marty Casey, who is the software developer for this. And any time that we would have the least little glitch, any time that we would have a question, or if we had some bigger issues, Marty and Desiree would take care of it. We would meet with Marty, Desiree and I would meet with Marty. Marty would have this fixed overnight, basically, and quite literally, I believe, is that they met, and then his folks on the other side of the world would work overnight, and then in the morning this is fixed. But one of the things that we did was that when we started out with this, or in summer of 22, when we're getting this together, I said that we really need to have cohorts within the data. I need to be able to break out our face-to-face students, our online students, and we have a campus in Mexico, so I need to have our students in Mexico separate because we need to have data for all of this. And so they didn't quite have that ready, but they got it ready by the time that we implemented the exam. And so within, probably, well, goodness, 24 hours of when I sent the email and said, we're done scoring these, I had data back, and all that data was broken out for Mexico, for the online students, and for the face-to-face students. It was all there. We can do anything, obviously, that we want to with that data, and also we've got some great analytics about it to show you here in just a minute. So that was a bigger issue. We said we needed blind scoring, and that didn't quite get ready before we started scoring, but it's ready now. And so anything that we basically wanted with that, we worked with the team, and they implemented it. And they flatter me, but they would say, I go to the developers and I say, Melody said we need this, Melody said we need that, and it happens. And so I thought, well, I love that. Not very many venues do I get to say, Melody says this and it happens, but it really kind of did. And so it was a great experience working with this team, and they were super responsive, just right there for us all the way. Okay. Let's see. Would you like to see some of our data from this? Okay. Let's go with that. All right. So we have the total average scores. And this, so you can see we've got the United States campus, so that would be our face-to-face students. We have the Mexico campus, and we have the online campus there. So that's across all the different levels of Bloom's and across the multiple choice and the short answer. So we can see our online students did just a little bit better than our face-to-face did, and our Mexico campus didn't do quite as well. One of the things that we are thinking about the Mexico campus is the language issue, that this could very well be what might explain this, because while their courses are taught in English and they speak English, they are native Spanish speakers. So we have some concern about that, and there's probably we can probably figure out some ways to overcome that. Or we can also do, in the true spirit of assessment, and say, we recognize this is a language thing. This is not necessarily an educational or an academic thing. This may be a language thing, and we need to do more research on that. Our online students, I think this is logical that they might score a little bit better in critical thinking because the average age of our online student is 33. Okay? The average age of our face-to-face is going to be more like 21, 22. Okay? So we would hope in those 10 or 11 years there, we might gain a little critical thinking skills, but maybe some of us do, some of us don't, okay? So we can also look at, this is broken out here between the short answer scores and the multiple choice scores. And so the dark line is the short answer scores. So you can see, again, the online students did a little bit better than the face-to-face there. And also the online students did a little, there was a little bit more of a difference in their short answer scores and their multiple choice scores, which again, seems logical because in the short answer, they're able to write what is their reasoning for this. Whereas, of course, as we all know, multiple choice is just right or wrong. So they're able to argue their point just a little bit. But one of the things that is beautiful about this exam too is that it gives them, it'll say 50 to 60 words for an answer, or it will say, ever how many words is kind of appropriate for that particular question will be noted for the students. So it keeps them from being, we've all read those papers and those essay question answers that I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to say a whole lot about it. This cuts down on that, which is terrific. Also, I will say that Ashley is right in their, of course, in their research of taking 2 minutes to grade one of these short answer questions. And in fact, really, I got down to doing them in 1 minute. And so Desiree was saying between 1 and 2 minutes. So 2 minutes is worst case scenario, kind of. But, once you read the scenario, you have the questions in mind, and that scoring platform is just terrific in terms of, has the scenario, has the question, has the model answer, then it has the student's answer, and then you just click the buttons on whether the answer has fully met the criteria, partially met, unmet, or NA that they didn't answer. Okay, and so it's very all right there. So you're not having to look here, look there, go here, go there. It's all right there. So I think that most of us got down to a minute and a half at the most on scoring these answers.
Excuse me.
Yes.
The programs are what courses, are we talking about accounting, finance, marketing?
All of them.
Program and online are the same?
Yes.
So you offer both online and on campus?
Yes, we do. We have a business administration degree that is online, and it has areas of study, they're called. And so they could do an area of study in marketing, they could do an area of study in various things. But it is it's overall a business administration degree. Now, so in the online, they're going to have that business administration degree. They all take the strategic management as the capstone. Then with so that's a good point there. With the face-to-face students, it's all College of Business majors taking that capstone, but they could be accounting majors or marketing majors or
so they could
finance.
be taking higher level courses. Well, critically thinking like accounting majors.
Yes.
Taking strategic management is different than maybe your BA students taking strategic management.
Sure.
That's because of the nature of the course they take.
Yes,
So
yes,
that could
that's
be some
true.
of the differential in those.
That could be, because they're taking more varied courses, you might say, as a BA major, and they're taking more upper level accounting courses in an accounting major. So that's a good point there too. So we'll need to put that into our analysis
Yeah,
of
we have
this.
the same programs, and it's much different online than it is on campus.
Mhm.
with those courses. How about the cases? You mentioned there's 3 different scenarios. What's the difference in the scenarios, and what do the multiple choice questions really look like?
Okay. Desiree, do we have a way of showing what those multiple choice questions look like? I'm not sure that we do.
I don't think so.
I don't think we have a way of showing you that right now, or in our presentation right now.
Does one point towards some of the balloons versus another? Or
Yes, oh yes, they're specifically designed to point toward the different levels of blooms, and we didn't choose any of them that were at the 2 lower levels of understand and remember.
But they don't go any further in depth than that. They're just general case. I'm just wondering, is there some bias between the cases?
Oh,
If
you know,
not everybody's having the same case.
No, not everybody's having the same case. They have 40 cases, 40 scenarios, okay, overall. And we said, we chose the topic of business integration and strategic management. So there are 40 cases that apply to that topic. And so we said, we want the students to have 3 cases. Each student gets 3 cases. So they will get 3 random cases out of the 40. Okay. Then they'll get random multiple choice out of the 40, but only the multiple choice that are directed to the upper 4 levels of blooms did our students get, because that was our decision. And so the 40 cases, obviously they are different, but they're designed to be the same level of the same issues in critical thinking. Yes. Uh-huh.
Can you show the platform to us?
The scoring platform,
Yeah, or
again.
anything. I mean, we haven't seen the program.
Yes, we cannot show the platform because we thought we could try to do that, but our capability hasn't been that. But you want to go back to that slide where you see the platform?
And you could come to our booth. We have a computer,
Oh.
so we could log on and we could show that after the presentation if you'd like to see it.
There you go. That's perfect. Okay. Let's see. You want to go one back where you can see it, or 1 or 2 back? Yes, there's the platform there. So see, it has the question, the scenario would be to the side, and it has the question, the model response, the key concept that it's testing, and then there's the student's answer. And then down below that is where you check if it's not attempted, unmet, so on. So it's all right there. But I would encourage you to go to their booth and see that, demonstrate it. Yes.
So 3 quick questions. So did you notice at all, did you do any kind of evaluation of potential bias across the graders? With some of them
No,
better, some
not
of them
yet.
worse? Second thought was, the online students tend to do better, do you think, because they had access to additional material? We found online students typically do better. Third thought was, and I'm reminded of a Korean classmate of mine who had excellent English and turned to me during the exam one day and said, "What's paraphernalia sell in a head shop?" And I'm wondering how much of it might be cultural as opposed to
Oh,
language.
that's a good point. That's a good point.
Because you do
Yeah.
have cultural differences,
Mhm.
and they may just not understand certain references
Yes,
that
right.
someone else might understand very readily. So
Sure,
I wonder
sure.
if you looked at that angle as well. As far as
We have not, but I'm making a mental note and we'll do that. Yes. I will also say, in terms of the raters, in terms of the scorers, we had a faculty from every department. There were some in the accounting department, some in the marketing, and so on. We haven't done any analysis on that because we just finished the scoring in March, but we will.
Well, I can look at my own scoring and go
Mhm.
back and look at my own.
Oh,
results.
sure.
And it's amazing how you become tolerant after a while.
Yes.
Or intolerant after a while.
Yes, no, you're exactly
And I
right
gotta go
about
back and
that.
adjust to
Yes.
that all the time.
Sure. So that would be something to look at there. We did go back, and I know this is bad stats, so don't start on that, but we did go back and look at our Spring 21 assessment of critical thinking with that case in strategic management, and they did have a higher, and again, I fully know this is anecdotal and not good stats, but they did score higher in that 2021 assessment. And so I think, and just again, thinking out loud on that could have been because it was graded, it was scored by the professors. They're in their classes, they know those students, they know who they are, they know their work ethic and that kind of thing. And that might account for some of that. And again, like I said, I know that's terrible statistics, but it's anecdotal. And so
It's worth evaluating.
it's worth a thought, it sure is, yes.
Yeah, do the students, did they get a grade for this? Did it count towards the overall course grade? And so was there incentive to do it, number one? And then related to that, do they know the purpose of it, that this is for ACSB? So I'm just trying to get an idea around that, from an assessment. Do you sort of, keep the students informed about the purpose?
We do. We keep them informed about that. They also are encouraged with a grade. It's a component of their grade. Now, some of the professors, they balked at me saying how much of the grade, and they balked. They have a line that I can't cross. But some of the professors gave them extra credit for completing this. Some gave them points based on how they performed on the multiple choice, because that was what was scored right away. And so they did things like that. So some of it was performance based. Probably most of it was just take it, because this helps us, and we position it with the students as this helps us to improve the whole program. This is not necessarily to help you, but it will help those who come behind you, because we may make changes in the curriculum, changes in curriculum in certain classes and so on, based on how you all as a group perform on this. So we kind of motivate their altruistic side on that. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. And possibly related to the gentleman's question, you said they had strategic management faculty participate in the development of the assessment. Did they basically develop the items from kind of a clean sheet of paper, or did they have a pool of things to choose from? And if so, how big was the pool?
Oh, sure, yes. Now, they helped and we're talking an hour-long meeting where we developed this. Now, Peregrine already has all those scenarios. They have the scenarios. So what they developed was, one, we chose the business integration. I think you saw the different subjects that they have, leadership and so on. We chose business integration, and then we chose the number of scenarios and then kind of the format of the test. But now, all those scenarios are already written. So we weren't coming up with from scratch on that. I will also say that none of the strategic management professors scored any of these responses either. So these were all scored by others, and so the strategic management professors did not score any of these responses. Yes.
Proctoring for students taking it?
They just took it online. They were not proctored. So the answers, and I scored about 100 of these personally. I didn't see anything that came up repetitively or anything that would indicate to me that there was, I don't know that it was high enough stakes for them to be motivated to be dishonest, but I don't know that either. So, yeah. But they were not proctored. Yes.
So when you look back at your data for your online students, you said the average age was 33. Students. I think if you have the demographics for that, it'd be interesting to see what the split is between traditional age student 18 to 22 versus those 33 that are online. Because your answer is, though, 33-year-old people have been out and have some experience, and so yes, there should have been some progressing with the lifelong learners. There was a study years ago that was done down at New Orleans State where they had traditional students that were thrown into an online environment, and they were evaluated.
Yes.
So it'd be interesting to see if you had your online average that was higher. But if you pulled out the 18 to 21-year-olds, did they artificially lower that average?
That's a really good point, and we do have, or will, we can get that when we mesh our data with registrar, the data from this with registrar data, and we can do all of that, and that's a great point, and we'll look at that.
You may want to go in and check and do a search on your questions. See how many can show up.
Yes.
I found an entire final exam out there one day.
Oh, I found test banks all over the place. Yes, it's yes. Again, I'm hoping that this, I'm hoping, and maybe I'm just being idealistic, but I'm hoping that they were motivated by, helping the program and that sort of, and it wasn't high enough stakes to cause them to be dishonest. Yes.
This might be more of a question for the Peregrine people, but as this, I guess, rolls out, or as you extend this, my assumption is that you're not doing this for free. Do you have any thoughts on how is it that you plan to charge for this?
So right now, we are charging $10 per assessment per student if you utilize currently our knowledge-based assessment, and then $20 per student per assessment if you do not utilize our knowledge-based assessment.
So it's $20 per exam? Okay, so it was, I guess I can say this, it was free for us because we were participating in the pilot. We were helping them do the beta testing, which was terrific. I think, so far, I think I would say that it's worth the $20 for the exam, which would have cost us, about $2,000 for 97 students, or we probably would have bought 100. Anyway, so that's, I think for the ability to spread this across the faculty, to get that much faculty involvement, to also have something that is a little bit more objective than what we were doing before, and to have something that was this seamless in the integration and the data, because this data analysis was a huge deal. We had to, when we were doing the case, and except for that one glorious year that they got the rubric right, and we could use EAC, to get the data, we've got a graduate assistant inputting this data in a spreadsheet, from rubrics from within Blackboard. And so, when you look at that time investment and the time investment on everybody's part, it's worth the $2,000 for us. Yeah.
So did you find a lot of useful things in terms of closing the loop? Did it help you?
Well, we
Any
haven't
changes?
taken, because we just finished and got the data ready for this presentation, we have not taken this
Okay.
back yet to and what our process is that we will take all this data back to the goal assessment team for critical thinking, so that's 6 or 7 number of faculty there in that group. We'll talk about this, we'll take all the questions, we may go back and do more data analysis on it, and then we will come up with what do we need to do, because we didn't have a set benchmark on this. I mean, our thought is 80% of our students will perform at meets expectations, fully meets expectations. And that's what we had with our former one. We're close to it here with the 77% and the 74 is not as close. But so I think, I'm not sure that we would do a lot of something to close the loop without another administration of this to see what the trend was and so on. But it will be that group who will recommend to the assessment committee as a whole and to the college what steps we
So
should
the
take.
different multiple choice questions don't really give you an item analysis on differentiating different pieces of
Oh, it will.
thinking?
It will. Let's see. You want to go down to that slide? I think it's the last one. That one. Get one more. Yes, this one here. So see, these are the sub-criterion that each one had, and so these were on the short answer. So see, the communicates effectively. So I was looking at that, and we had over 500 responses out of that 800. The 500 that were fully met were in communicates effectively, that light blue line, and then our next largest fully met was the gray line on effectively communicates own views, perspective, and hypothesis. So that looks like the communication aspect of this. Our students were pretty good on that. Where they, were less good is in that selection and use of information to analyze situations. Let's see, that one and that lighter blue there draws conclusions, understands related implications and consequences. We had fewer who did well on that. So, it would take us some more research to see what kind of things would address those deficiencies if we wanted to look at those as deficiencies. But we'd have to do some research and see what we could do on that. But I think it's giving us definite place to start with this.
Yeah, it looks like you got a lot of variability on your grade line in the middle there,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of just that spread, so
Yes.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
So it's wonderfully interesting data. We can break it all down by major too, and all of that, so we can see if the accounting majors are better at this than the marketing majors or what. And I teach marketing, so I'm not picking on marketing. Yes.
So I'm curious, the light blue and the violet lines communicates effectively communicates.
Mm-hmm. I mean, very
How much,
specifically, yeah.
we've got almost the same result in both,
Mhm.
and two terms that at a first blush are measuring the exact same thing?
Similar, yes, yes, I'm not sure exactly, I don't know, do you know how to explain that one? I'm not sure on that one, but I think it's, more specifically on communicating their own views, perspective, and hypothesis. So when I scored these, I was looking more, not just it communicates effectively overall, but their views, perspective, and hypothesis. So, but I see your point.
And there's some correlation between there too, if you look at the recess of ours.
Sure. Yes.
I know you use this at the undergrad level.
Uh-huh.
For the grad level or exec MBA, those types of things, do you have different types of scenarios and cases, or is it the same things for?
I am not entirely sure
I think it's the same types of cases.
and then it's just the levels of blooms.
And the levels
can
of
vary.
blooms.
Yeah.
Now, so we shot high on the levels of blooms too, because I think that Ashley said earlier that some of these that were developed for doctoral level programs would only be looking at the highest level of blooms. And so we did the top 4. They have tier 1, 2, and 3, and there are 2 levels in each. So we did tier 2 and tier 3 of the top 4 levels. So my thought is, based on what Ashley has said here, and I'm speaking for the company, not speaking for the company, but my thought is that at a master's level, that you would just use the higher levels of blooms for that. Other questions? Well, you guys have been a terrific audience, so thank you so much. We'll be happy to answer any questions you have now, and Ashley will be at the booth for Peregrine all day. Okay, and come by and see that scoring platform. It's really cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Outstanding job.
Thank